Here are the top stories for today, June 24, 2021. A day of mourning. Former President Benigno Noynoy Aquino III has died. Former and current government officials mourn the passing of the former leader. More vaccines on the way. The country receives another 2 million doses of China's Sinovac COVID-19 jabs. Around 400,000 of these are procured by the city government of Manila. Malacanang allays concerns over the delay in the arrival of an additional 50,000 Sputnik V jabs, saying the delay in administering the second dose could increase its efficacy. And a step closer to justice, charges have been filed against the suspect in the mine blast that killed collegiate football player Keith Absalons and his cousin in Masbate. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top story tonight, the country has lost yet another former leader. Former President Benigno Aquino III has reportedly died. He was 61 years old. Earlier on Thursday, members of the Aquino family and supporters, including Senator Francis Pangilinan and former Interior Secretary Mar Rojas, were seen at the Capital Medical Center in Quezon City, where he was reportedly taken for treatment. Messages of condolences also poured in over the passing of the former leader. In a statement, Supreme Court Associate Justice Marvic Leonen praised Aquino as a kind man who was driven by his passion to serve the people and with a consuming curiosity about new knowledge and the world. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana also extended his sympathies to the Aquino family. He paid tribute to Aquino for advocating the strengthening of the country's defense and security capabilities. Malacanang has also condoled with the Aquino family over the passing of President Rodrigo Duterte's predecessor.
We commiserate po and condole with the family and loved ones of former President Benigno Simeon Noynoy Aquino III as we extend our condolences on his untimely demise. We're grateful for the former president for his contribution and services to the country, and we ask our people to offer a prayer for the eternal repose of the former chief executive. Rest in peace, Mr. President.
2 million more doses of Sinovac jabs arrived in the country this morning. Of the fresh batch of Sinovac delivery, 400,000 doses were procured by the city of Manila. The Cebu Pacific plane carrying 2 million doses of Sinovac vaccine has landed around 7:26 a.m. at the NAIA Terminal 2 in Pasay City. This is the 12th batch of Sinovac vaccines delivered to the country. Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr., Health Secretary Francisco Duque III, and Manila Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso welcomed the latest batch of vaccine delivery. The country now has a total of 16,205,870 vaccine doses, of which 11 million vaccine doses are from Sinovac. Meanwhile, Roque identified priority areas for vaccine distribution.
Kasama sa mga lugar na bibigyan prioridad sa pagbabakuna, liban sa NCR Plus, ay ang Plus 10 na tinatawag. So meron po tayong NCR Plus 8 Plus 10. Ano po yung Plus 10? Ito po ang Bacolod, ang Iloilo, ang Cagayan de Oro, ang Baguio, ang Zamboanga, ang Dumaguete, ang Tuguegarao, ang General Santos, ang Naga, at ang Legazpi. Ang naging basehan ay ang tumataas nilang mga kaso or surging cases, ang kanilang pagiging highly urbanized at dense environment, at kanilang kontribusyon sa regional or national economy.
The government is determined to achieve population protection by the end of the year. This as the Health Department assures that the COVID-19 Delta variant is under control. The details from Janice Cabe.
Malacanang has opted to keep the country's population protection from COVID-19 target before the end of the year. This amid reports by the United Kingdom-based think tank Pantheon Macroeconomics that the Philippines would be among the last to reach herd immunity. According to the Okta Research Group, population protection is equivalent to 40 to 50% of vaccinated individuals among the target population. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said this is possible as the government ramps up on vaccination drives, especially with the arrival of more vaccines. The government has administered over 8 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines, 2 million of which have been fully vaccinated.
Kaugnay nito, mali ang projection ng isang UK think tank na ang Pilipinas sa huling bansa sa Asia na makakamit ang herd immunity. Mukhang hindi nila na-update o hindi na factor ang pagdating ng bulto-bultong bakuna natin. Nagsimula tayong ng kakaunti dahil sa limitadong supply ng Sinovac at AstraZeneca. Ngunit tandaan natin na tuloy-tuloy na ang pagdating ng mga supply ng bakuna.
Meanwhile, the Health Department assures that the spread of Delta variant or any variant of concern may be prevented with strict compliance to public health protocols, such as wearing a mask and face shield, keeping at least 1 meter distance from others, and proper washing of hands. Health experts also say that getting 2 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine is strongly protective against the highly transmissible Delta variant. In a media forum, DOH Epidemiology OIC Director Alethea de Guzman said they do not see any local cases with Gamma or Delta variant yet. She also said that the case trend of COVID-19 infections in the country declined for the past week from 10,845 infections on April 9 to 15 down to 5,790 on June 16 to 22. She said the NCR plus areas show a slow downward trend in cases except Laguna, which is displaying a plateau. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Other countries are on alert on the rapid spread of the COVID-19 Delta variant, such as in India, where around 40 cases have been detected. The Union Health Ministry in India said the Delta variant spread sporadically in Maharashtra, Kerala, and Madhya Pradesh. These 3 states have been advised to strengthen surveillance and take appropriate public health measures. The Delta Plus variant is characterized by the mutation in spike protein, which aids the virus to gain receptor-mediated entry into human cells. Mutations help the virus to become either more transmissible or more virulent, or both. With time, these mutations, known as a variant of interest, increase in frequency in the selected population and are considered then as a variant of concern. Back in the country, IATF officials led by Health Secretary Francisco Duque will meet the members of the Provincial Board in Cebu on Monday, June 28. This is to resolve their impasse over which testing and quarantine protocols should be followed. Under the IATF protocols, returning Filipino overseas and OFW should undergo quarantine for at least 10 days and undergo swab tests on the 7th day from the date of their arrival. Meanwhile, Cebu's policy requires arriving passengers to undergo swab tests upon arrival and will then be taken to a hotel where they would stay for 3 days to wait for the test results. Presidential Assistant for the Visayas, Secretary Michael Lloyd Dino, urged Governor Gwendolyn Garcia to provisionally implement the national requirement of 10-day hotel quarantine until a mutually agreed and effective set of policies and protocols may be reached in the upcoming dialogue. Garcia earlier withdrew her Executive Order 23, threatening criminal and administrative charges against government officials and agencies that will defy the province's protocol. Iloilo City woes will also be resolved with a scheduled visit of presidential spokesperson Harry Roque and vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr. The highly urbanized city is currently experiencing a surge in the number of COVID-19 infections. Mayor Jerry Treñas said Roque and Galvez called and informed him that they are looking for solutions to the city's lack of vaccines, medical personnel, COVID-19 medicines, and equipment like ventilators and high-flow oxygen cannula. They will also find a solution over the unpaid bill of the Philippine health insurance system to various hospitals in the city, amounting to almost 1 billion pesos. Authorities in Davao City beef up the implementation of the minimum health protocols to contain the spread of COVID-19 disease. A total of 73,440 persons were apprehended for violations of health protocols. Those not wearing face masks top the list, followed by face shield policy violators, mass gatherings, curfew violators, liquor ban, and violation of the rule of only assessing essential goods and services. Others are arrested over fake RT-PCR tests. Meanwhile, reports from the Department of Health in the region said that COVID-19 variants were found to be from the specimens submitted from the Davao region. These include the Alpha variant and the Beta variant. Based on the initial investigation conducted by the Regional Epidemiology Surveillance, all are non-OFW cases and are not identified to be related to each other. Investigation as to their exposure to persons with possible travel histories is still ongoing. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque said the efficacy of the Sputnik V vaccine will be higher if the period between the first and second doses is longer. The current interval between the first and second doses is 21 days. Roque made the announcement amid reports on the delay of the arrival of the jabs. Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr. earlier said that the delivery of 50,000 doses of Sputnik V this month has been delayed. He said the delay was due to ongoing upgrades and developments. An official from the Gamaleya National Research Center of Epidemiology and Microbiology, Director Alexander Ginsberg, said the interval between the first and second doses may be extended from 21 days to 3 months. Still to come, a government official says Sinovac jabs are effective amid issues over its efficacy rate. And 3.7 million registrants of the Philippine Identification System now have bank accounts. Details ahead, this is the PNA Newsroom. The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
If you are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work. More Sinovac jabs arrive in Zamboanga, Bicol, and Negros Occidental. Presidential Chief Legal Counsel Sal Panelo vouched for the efficacy of the vaccine amid reports that hundreds of Indonesian healthcare workers have acquired COVID-19 despite getting inoculated with it. About 35,000 doses of Sinovac arrived in Zamboanga City. This is intended for the first and second doses healthcare workers and frontliners, as well as senior citizens and persons with comorbidities. The city government has received a total of 326,200 doses of vaccines consisting of the following: Sinovac, AstraZeneca, Sputnik V, and Pfizer. Meanwhile, the Bicol region also ramps up its inoculation drive, especially with the arrival of some 19,680 doses of the Sinovac vaccine. The jabs arrived at the Legazpi City Airport and were immediately brought to the DOH storage facility for inventory. These will be allocated to the provinces of Albay, Camarines Norte, Camarines Sur, and Sorsogon. And in Negros Occidental, a fresh batch of 25,000 vials of Sinovac jabs arrived, of which 15,000 vials were received by the Bacolod City Health Office and the Emergency Operations Center, while the 10,000 vials were delivered to the Provincial Health Office. Bacolod City Mayor Evelio Leonardo said the arrival of additional vaccines is good news since it will accelerate the momentum of the city's vaccination program against COVID-19. Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Sal Panelo vouched for the efficacy of the vaccine amid reports that hundreds of Indonesian healthcare workers have acquired COVID-19 despite getting inoculated with it. 2 repatriation flights from the United Arab Emirates for overseas Filipinos are scheduled on June 30 and July 17. Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Sara Lu Ariola assured that the government will charter more flights depending on the availability of quarantine facilities. The government has prepared about 35,000 rooms available at the moment, but these get filled up easily. Ariola said the Department of Foreign Affairs is consistently working with other government agencies to ask for more quarantine facilities. Once rooms are available, a new repatriation flight might be announced between June 30 and July 17. A travel ban is currently imposed in UAE, including India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Oman, amid the spread of the more contagious Delta coronavirus variant in the region, prohibiting most Filipinos in the country from returning home. Saudi Arabia is all praises for Filipino healthcare workers in the country for their excellence and professionalism. This was the remark made by Presidential Assistant on Foreign Affairs and Special Envoy to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Robert Borge. Borge said Saudi Arabia has yet to request for an exemption of the deployment cap on Filipino medical professionals, particularly nurses, similar to what has been granted to the United Kingdom. He noted that KSA is aware that the Philippines also needed their healthcare workers to boost the country's workforce amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Earlier, the Interagency Task Force for the Management increased the annual cap on the deployment of healthcare workers abroad from 5,000 to 6,500. The IATF said the cap was needed due to the demand for healthcare workers abroad amid the health crisis. Some 3.7 million bank accounts have been opened so far since the registration for the Philippine Identification System, or PhilSys, started. During the 42nd National Conference of Employers, Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Carl Kendrick Chua said their objective is to have 100% financial inclusion at the family level by the end of the year. Chua said financial inclusion is among the priority use cases for the PhilSys. He said they hope to provide access to bank accounts to 26 million families through the Land Bank of the Philippines. He said the PhilSys registry will also help in the distribution of additional social transfers to mitigate the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. He added it may likewise aid the efficient distribution of COVID-19 vaccines to the general population. Previously, the Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, reported about 2.48 million previously unbanked registrants now with accounts as of April 30. The Anti-Red Tape Authority, or ARTA, and the Land Transportation Office, or LTO, vowed to work together to bolster the campaign against fixers offering services for application or renewal of driver's licenses. ARTA Director General Jeremiah Belhica said the fixers took advantage of the public's impression that the government is still implementing slow and bureaucratic services. He said they are particularly intensifying the LTO's anti-fixer operations along the stretch of East Avenue in Quezon City that has long been a hotspot of fixers. LTO Assistant Secretary Edgar Galvante said they will maintain fast and efficient processing of the driver's license application. He urged the public not to patronize fixers and instead report these illegal activities to the authorities. He said drivers who will be caught using fake licenses will be banned from applying for official driver's license for at least 2 years. Galvante assured that they will continue to work together with ARTA to rid the area of fixers. Meanwhile, ARTA and LTO clarified supposed erroneous reports or an entrapment operation of a fixer near the LTO headquarters in Quezon City. During the operation, ARTA Deputy Director General for Administration and Finance Undersecretary Carlos Quita posed as an applicant renewing his driver's license. Contrary to some news reports, the ARTA said the fixer was caught outside the gate and not inside the LTO. ARTA also did not claim that the license that Quita received was faked. On Wednesday, LTO turned over Quita's license and confirmed its validity. A group on Wednesday conducted a caravan seeking to extend the term of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority or BTA. Members of the Bangsamoro People's Coalition for BTA Extension held a motorcade in Quiapo, Manila and staged a peaceful rally at the Batasang Pambansa in Quezon City. In a statement, the group urged lawmakers to extend the term of the BTA from 2022 to 2025. It also called on President Rodrigo Duterte to certify the bill extending the transition period to 2025 as urgent. It said extending transition will enable the national government to implement its commitments to the Moro Islamic Liberation Front or MILF, specifically those under the normalization track of the Comprehensive Agreement on the Bangsamoro. It added that many are looking forward to the realization of these commitments, especially those benefiting from the gains of peace. The group also asked Congress to set first regular BARMM elections should be in 2025. Up next, another high-ranking official of the New People's Army surrenders in North Cotabato. And test before travel, a hospital offers discounted swab test fees for travelers. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom. You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. Police have arrested one of the suspects in the anti-personnel mine explosion that killed former Far Eastern University varsity football player Keith Absalon and his cousin Nolven. The Police Regional Office 5 confirmed on Wednesday the arrest of suspected NPA member Mariel Suson. She was charged with 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of frustrated murder, violation of international humanitarian law, and violation of the Comprehensive Firearms and Ammunition Regulation Act. Masbate Police Provincial Director Colonel Juris Cantoria said Suson was arrested for a separate murder case filed before the Regional Trial Court Branch 45 in Masbate City. She and 8 other NPA members were accused of allegedly killing Reynerio Villamor in Masbate City on April 22nd this year. Investigators said the suspect is a daughter of Rogelio Suson, Secretary of the NPA Larangan II of the Communist Bicol Regional Party Committee. Meanwhile, the Department of Education denied reports that the suspect is a public school teacher in Masbate. A high-ranking leader of the CPP-NPA surrendered to the Army through North Cotabato Representative Rudy Cawagdan in Aracan, North Cotabato on June 22. Pedro Capiter Arnado, chairperson of Kilusang Magbubukid ng Pilipinas or KMP Southern Mindanao Regional Committee, cited physical exhaustion, weakened party leadership, and weakening of mass bases for his return to the fold of the law. During his presentation to the media on Wednesday, Arnado recalled that when then Davao City Mayor Rodrigo Duterte became president, they were told in a dialogue in May 2016 to return to the government. He also cited the neutralization of other high-profile cadres, false promises of the communist movement, and their isolation from their family as reasons for his surrender. Arnado also admitted that the Ending Local Communist Armed Conflict program proves that the government is doing everything to help the poor. 10th Infantry Division Commander Major General Ernesto Torres Jr. expressed hope that Arnado's surrender will pave the way for other mass organizations to work alongside the government. In sports, the Tokyo Summer Olympics organizers have ordered an alcohol ban at all of its venues. Committee head Seiko Hashimoto said they decided to ban the sale and consumption of alcohol at Olympic venues to prevent the spread of COVID-19. This was in response to an outcry from the Japanese public amid worries over the pandemic as they endured months of restrictions. The organizing committee of the Olympics and Paralympics also released safety guidelines for ticket holders, including banning loud cheering, the giving of high fives, and towel waving at the venues. The Summer Olympics will be held on July 23 to August 8, and the Paralympic Games from August 24 to September 5. San Juan City celebrated today, June 24, the Feast of St. John the Baptist, minus the traditional basaan or water splashing event. This year's Wata Wata Festival is themed Basbasan sa Makabagong San Juan. The highlight of this year's feast is the blessing of the image of St. John the Baptist at the Pinaglabanan Church in San Juan. A simple float parade also plied selected routes in San Juan villages. However, the basaan would not take place to prevent a COVID-19 super spreader. Mayor Francis Zamora earlier said authorities will monitor the celebration within the villages to make sure that residents will still follow the minimum health standards. Zamora said the simple celebration will serve as the city's gratefulness for surviving amid the pandemic. Here's good news for those planning to go out for leisure in the coming weeks. The discounted RT-PCR test for qualified tourists at the Philippine Children's Medical Center, or PCMC, has been extended until December. This means that RT-PCR test at PCMC will cost only 750 pesos instead of the regular 1,500 pesos. The Department of Tourism and the Tourism Promotions Board first signed an agreement with PCMC in December 2020 to subsidize 50% of the hospital's RT-PCR testing cost. More than 15,000 domestic tourists have been successfully swabbed from January to June this year. To avail of PCMC's test, travelers must first register online for pre-schedule via the TPB website and submit a valid government-issued identification card, proof of hotel booking in a DOT-accredited accommodation establishment, and proof of mode of travel such as airline or bus ticket. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. A day of mourning. Former President Benigno Noynoy Aquino III has died. Former and current government officials mourn the passing of the former leader. More vaccines on the way. The country receives another 2 million doses of China's Sinovac COVID-19 jabs. Around 400,000 of these are procured by the city government of Manila. Malacanang allays concerns over the delay in the arrival of an additional 50,000 Sputnik V jabs, saying the delay in administering the second dose could increase its efficacy. And a step closer to justice, charges have been filed against the suspect in the mine blast that killed collegiate football player Keith Absalons and his cousin in Masbate. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.